and welcome back to Super English Talks. My name is Sarah, and today we are diving into a very important topic that affects millions of people around the world: mental health, and more specifically, how it connects to exam stress, preparation, and communication. This is not only an English learning episode, but also a guide to understanding how to talk about your thoughts and feelings in English, especially when it comes to stress, anxiety, and staying calm under pressure. So, grab your notebook, relax, and let's begin this journey together. When we talk about mental health, we are talking about more than just the absence of illness. Mental health is really about how we think, how we feel, and how we behave in our daily lives. It is about our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Sometimes people confuse mental health with mental illness. Mental illness refers to diagnosable conditions like depression, anxiety disorders, or schizophrenia, which can seriously interfere with the way a person thinks, feels, and acts. Mental wellness, on the other hand, is the active practice of taking care of our mind, building resilience, developing coping skills, and having a sense of purpose. Even someone with a mental illness can work on mental wellness and experience a high quality of life. That's an important reminder. Mental wellness is for everyone now. Let's focus on something that many of you listening probably deal with on a regular basis: exam stress. Exams are a big part of education. Whether you are studying for school tests, university finals, ielts, toefl, or cefr exams, the pressure can sometimes feel overwhelming. But why do we feel exam stress? What are the causes, and how can we recognize the signs? Understanding this is the first step to managing it. Exam stress often comes from the fear of failure, the pressure to perform well, or the expectations from family, teachers, and even ourselves. When we want to succeed badly, our mind starts imagining the worst-case scenario. For example, what if I fail? What if I forget everything? What if I disappoint everyone? These thoughts create anxiety, and anxiety affects both the mind and body. Common signs of exam stress include trouble sleeping, loss of appetite or overeating, difficulty focusing, headaches, stomach aches, or even feeling angry and irritable for no clear reason. If you notice these signs lasting for more than 2 weeks, it's important to take action and seek support. Now let's imagine a real-world example in English. Picture this conversation between two students. Hey, how are you feeling about the exam tomorrow? I don't know. I feel really nervous. My heart is racing, and I couldn't sleep last night. I get it. I felt the same last week. Do you want to practice some questions together? Yeah, that would help. I just feel like I'll forget everything once I see the paper. Don't worry. Let's go through it step by step. You're not alone in this. This is a simple but powerful example of how we can express exam stress in English. Notice the phrases. I feel really nervous. My heart is racing. I couldn't sleep last night, and I'll forget everything. These are natural ways to describe stress, and practicing them will help you express your own feelings more clearly in English. But now the question is, what can we do about it? How do we prepare for exams in a way that reduces stress and builds confidence? First strategy is effective pre-exam preparation. Cramming at the last minute may seem like a solution, but it usually makes stress worse. Instead, spread your study sessions over time. Use active recall techniques and take breaks to give your brain time to process. Research shows that regular review is more effective than long, stressful study marathons. For example, let's say you're preparing for an English exam. Instead of trying to memorize 100 vocabulary words in one night, focus on 10 words each day. Write them down, use them in sentences, say them out loud, and review them regularly. This way, the knowledge becomes part of your long-term memory, and you'll feel much more confident on exam day. Another important part of preparation is practice under real conditions. If your exam includes listening exercises, practice listening to audio recordings in English without subtitles. If your exam has a writing section, practice writing essays within the time limit. This reduces the shock of the real exam environment, because your brain has already experienced something similar now. Let's talk about exam day stress management techniques. Even if you prepare well, it's natural to feel nervous on the big day. The key is not to eliminate stress completely, but to manage it so that it doesn't control you. One of the most effective tools is deep breathing. When you feel anxious, your breathing becomes shallow and fast, which tells your brain that something is wrong. By slowing down your breathing, you send a signal to your brain that you are safe and calm. Here's a simple breathing exercise you can try. Sit comfortably. Close your eyes if you want, and breathe in slowly through your nose for 4 seconds. Hold your breath gently for 4 seconds. Then breathe out slowly through your mouth for 6 seconds. Repeat this cycle for 2 to 3 minutes. As you do this, notice how your body starts to relax and your mind becomes clearer. You can even practice this before the exam starts, while sitting in your chair, without anyone noticing. Let's practice the English phrases you might use in this situation. You could say, I need to take a deep breath. Let me calm down. I feel more relaxed now. These are simple sentences, but they're powerful tools when you need to express or remind yourself of what's happening. Another technique is positive self-talk. Many times, our stress increases because of the words we say to ourselves. If you keep telling yourself, I'm going to fail, I'm not good enough, your brain believes it, and your performance drops. But if you change the script, your brain starts working with you instead of against you. Try phrases like, "I've prepared well," "I can handle this," "I just need to focus on one question at a time." This kind of language is not only helpful for your mental health, but also excellent English practice now. Let's imagine another example conversation. Student A, "I'm freaking out. I don't think I can do this exam." Student B, "Take a deep breath. You've been preparing for weeks. Tell yourself, 'I can handle this.'" Student A, "Okay, I can handle this. That actually feels better." Can sound, and these are real expressions you can use beyond the exam. We also need to think about long-term mental health habits. Remember, mental health is not only about solving problems when they appear, but also about building daily habits that keep us strong. Sleep is one of the most important. Adults need 7 to 9 hours of good sleep each night. Without enough rest, our brain cannot focus, our memory suffers, and our emotions become harder to control. Another habit is regular physical activity. Even a 20-minute walk in nature can reduce stress and improve your mood. And of course, connecting with friends, family, or supportive communities helps us feel less alone and more resilient. Language learners especially benefit from talking about mental health because it gives you useful vocabulary for daily life. Here are some key phrases. "I feel anxious about my exam." "I'm under a lot of pressure. I'm trying to stay calm." "I need some support. I feel more confident now." These are phrases you can practice in your own conversations, and they are both emotionally useful and linguistically valuable. Another useful thing is learning how to validate someone else's feelings in English. For example, if a friend says, "I'm so stressed about my exams," you can reply, "I understand how you feel." Or, "That sounds really difficult, but I'm here for you." Validation is about showing empathy without judgment, and it can make a huge difference in how supported someone feels. And here's something very important. Avoid harmful phrases. Saying things like "just relax" or "don't worry about it" might seem helpful, but they often make the other person feel dismissed. Instead, focus on listening and supporting. Say things like, "I can see you're really worried. Work through this together as we move forward." I want to highlight one more point. Conversations about mental health can feel awkward, but the simple act of trying shows that you care. Even if you don't have all the answers, being there for someone is powerful.
Now let's connect this back to exam stress with one final story. Imagine a student named Emily preparing for her IELTS test. For weeks, she studies late into the night, drinking too much coffee, and constantly telling herself she's not ready. By the time exam day comes, she is exhausted, nervous, and unable to focus. Compare this to another student, James, who studies in shorter, regular sessions, sleeps 8 hours a night. practices deep breathing, and tells himself positive affirmations. On exam day, James still feels nervous, but he is calm enough to think clearly and do his best. The difference isn't intelligence, it's mental health preparation. So here's the key message. Taking care of your mental health is not separate from academic success. It is part of it. The way you prepare your mind is just as important as the way you prepare your notes. As we wrap up today's episode, let's remember the main lessons. First, notice the causes and signs of exam stress. Second, prepare effectively using regular study and practice. Third, manage stress on exam day with breathing and positive self-talk. Fourth, build long-term habits of sleep, exercise, connection, and gratitude. And finally, learn to express your thoughts and feelings in English using simple but powerful phrases. So, now that we've explored the basic understanding of mental health and exam stress, let's go even deeper. I want to spend some time focusing on the small, everyday choices that can either increase or decrease exam anxiety. You see, mental health is not just about the big moments, like exam day or the night before a test. It's about all the small decisions we make throughout our preparation journey. And when we talk about these choices in English, we not only improve our well-being, but also practice how to communicate about feelings, habits, and challenges. One major factor that adds to exam stress is comparison. Many students compare themselves with classmates, siblings, or friends. They say things like, "She is so much smarter than me," or "He studies all the time, and I don't." In English, these comparisons usually sound like, "I'm not as good as him," or "I'll never be as smart as her." But here's the truth: comparison is one of the biggest thieves of confidence. Every learner has their own pace, their own strengths, and their own journey. When you compare yourself to others, you ignore your progress. Instead, try changing the conversation. Instead of saying, "I'm not as good as him," practice saying, "I'm improving every day." Instead of, "I'll never be as smart as her," try, "I'm building my own skills step by step." These small changes in language create huge changes in mindset. And the bonus, also practicing useful English phrases for self-talk and daily conversations. Another hidden cause of stress is perfectionism. Many students believe they must study perfectly, write perfectly, and answer perfectly, or else they will fail. Perfectionism can sound like this: "If I make one mistake, it's over," or "I can't show anyone my writing until it's perfect." But here's what's important: mistakes are part of learning. In fact, in English, mistakes are not signs of weakness. They are signs of growth. Every mistake you make in speaking or writing is proof that you are trying, and each correction takes you one step closer to mastery. So I encourage you to use English phrases that welcome mistakes. Try saying, "It's okay to make mistakes. I'm learning," or "Mistakes help me grow." These phrases not only calm your mind, but also give you practice in expressing resilience in English. Let's also talk about healthy study routines. A lot of learners sit for hours staring at their books or screens, but their brain is not really learning. They feel guilty if they take breaks, but in reality, the brain needs breaks to process information. A good rule is to study for 45 minutes, then take a 10 to 15-minute break. During that break, don't scroll on your phone endlessly. That usually increases stress. Instead, you can stretch, drink water, walk around, or even practice a short mindfulness activity. Imagine this conversation with yourself in English. Okay, I studied for 45 minutes. Now I'll take a short break. I'll walk around for 10 minutes and then come back fresh. Talking to yourself like this not only organizes your time, but also builds your English fluency. Now, let's explore more deeply exam day techniques for staying calm. One powerful method is visualization. This means imagining yourself in a positive situation before it actually happens. For example, the night before the exam, close your eyes and picture yourself walking into the exam hall with confidence. Imagine sitting down, taking a deep breath, opening the paper, and calmly answering the questions. The brain often struggles to tell the difference between real experience and vivid imagination. So this kind of mental rehearsal can actually reduce anxiety and prepare you for success. Here's some English vocabulary related to visualization. Picture yourself succeeding. Imagine the outcome. Visualize success. These are great expressions you can use not only for exams, but for job interviews, presentations, or any stressful event in life. Another technique for exam day is grounding yourself when your thoughts start racing. Sometimes, in the middle of an exam, your brain panics and says, "I don't know this. I can't do this. I'm going to fail." In that moment, try grounding exercises. One simple grounding technique is the 5-4-3-2-1 method. Look around and notice 5 things you can see, 4 things you can feel, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. This brings your mind back to the present and calms the nervous system. In English, you might whisper to yourself, "I see my pen. I feel the desk. I hear students writing." This isn't just calming. It's also a great language exercise because you're practicing describing your environment in English. Let's not forget another important element: nutrition and hydration. What you eat and drink before an exam can influence your mental state. Too much caffeine can make your heart race and increase anxiety. Sugary snacks might give you quick energy, but then cause a crash. Instead, eat something balanced: fruits, vegetables, protein, and drink enough water. A calm body supports a calm mind. Imagine yourself saying in English, "I'll eat something healthy so I can focus better." This is another practical way to connect everyday actions with useful English phrases. Now, beyond exam stress, let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture of mental health and communication. In many cultures, talking about mental health is still seen as uncomfortable, maybe even a little taboo. But learning to talk about it in English is actually a form of empowerment. It gives you the tools to express yourself in international conversations, in academic environments, or even with friends around the world. Some key English expressions for sharing your feelings include, I've been feeling overwhelmed. I'm under a lot of pressure lately. I feel anxious about my performance. I'm trying to cope with stress. And if you're supporting someone else, you might say, I'm here if you want to talk. That sounds really tough. You're not alone in this. These are simple but deeply human expressions, and practicing them makes your English more real, more emotional, and more connected to life. Now let's role-play a longer real-world example. Imagine you're talking to a classmate before the exam. Classmate, I didn't sleep at all last night. I'm so worried about failing. I understand. I felt the same before my last test. Maybe we can take a few deep breaths together. Before we start, classmate, really, that might help. Okay? Breathe in slowly. Now breathe out. You're not alone. We'll get through this. Do you see how simple words can completely change the energy of a conversation? This is not just English practice, it's life practice. And here's something very important. Asking for help is a sign of strength, not weakness. In English, you can say, I think I need support right now. Or could you help me review this topic? Or even, I'd like to talk to someone about how I'm feeling. The act of asking already makes you stronger, 'cause it shows courage and self-awareness. Finally, let's talk about gratitude and mindfulness in a bit more detail. Gratitude means focusing on the things you appreciate even when life feels stressful. Every night before bed, you can practice saying 3 things in English that you're grateful for. For example, I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my teacher. I'm grateful for the chance to learn today. Saying these out loud improves your mental state and your English fluency at the same time. Mindfulness, on the other hand, is about paying attention to the present moment. When you eat, notice the taste. When you walk, notice the feeling of your steps. When you breathe, notice the air moving in and out. In English, you can describe these observations. I taste the sweetness of the apple. Hear the sound of birds. Outside, I feel the ground under my feet. These are not just calming, they're excellent exercises for descriptive vocabulary. So as you can see, conversations about mental health are not only important for emotional well-being, but also incredible opportunities for English practice. You're learning words, phrases, and sentence structures that you can use in school, at work, and in everyday life. Remember, English is not just about grammar or vocabulary lists. It's about real communication, and the most powerful communication is the kind that touches human experience. Talking about stress, exams, emotions, and resilience is some of the most human communication there is. And every time you practice, you're leveling up your English and your life skills at the same time.
Now let's translate this into useful English practice. You could say, I stayed up all night before my exam. I felt exhausted, and my brain wouldn't work. I kept reading, but nothing went into my head. These are natural ways to describe stress in English, and they also let you share your experiences with teachers, classmates, or even friends in international study groups. But what if you did the opposite? What if, instead of staying up all night, you said, I studied earlier in the day, then I went to bed at 11, and I woke up feeling fresh and calm. Notice how different that feels not only in real life, but also in the words. The first sentence. It is heavy and negative, while the second is lighter and more positive. Oh. This is the power of language. It doesn't just describe our feelings, it shapes them. Here's another powerful story. A student named Aisha had been preparing for her TOEFL exam for months. At first, she pushed herself too hard, studying 8 to 10 hours a day. She avoided meeting friends, skipped meals, and drank too much coffee. Eventually, she started feeling dizzy and anxious. She said to herself in English, I can't keep going like this. I need a better balance. So she changed her approach. She began to study in smaller chunks, took breaks to walk outside, and practiced breathing before bed. On exam day, she wasn't completely stress-free, but she was calm enough to focus. And she passed with flying colors. This is an important reminder that stress management is not about removing stress completely. That's impossible. It's about controlling it, guiding it, and making it work for you instead of against you. Now let's talk about how we can express exam stress in conversations with others. Imagine you're talking to a teacher. Excuse me, I feel very anxious about the upcoming exam. Do you have any advice for managing stress? Teacher? Yes, it's natural to feel nervous. Try reviewing your notes early. Then get enough rest, and remember, the exam is only one part of your learning. Notice how polite and clear this exchange is. You're practicing both mental health vocabulary, anxious, nervous, stressed, and polite question forms. This is excellent English practice that you can actually use in school, college, or even professional exams. Sometimes talking to a friend is different. With friends, we use more casual English. Here's an example. Friend, how are you feeling about tomorrow's test? Honestly, I'm freaking out. My stomach hurts just thinking about it. Friend, same here. Let's just try our best. Want to review together for an hour? Yeah, that would help a lot. Did you notice the phrase, I'm freaking out? That's very natural spoken English. It's informal, but it's exactly how students talk about stress. By practicing these real-world examples, you prepare yourself not just for exams, but also for authentic conversations in English-speaking environments. When we talk about mental health, it's really about our overall psychological well-being, how we think, feel, and behave. Emotional, psychological, and social well-being is more than just not having a mental illness. Mental illness is more about diagnosable conditions that really affect how a person thinks, feels, and acts, like depression, anxiety disorders, or schizophrenia. Mental wellness, on the other hand, is about actively trying to have good mental health. It's about building resilience, developing coping skills, and having a sense of purpose. It's important to remember that even people with a mental illness can still have a high level of mental wellness. What's interesting is that research shows if we work on our mental wellness, we might actually lower our chances of getting mental illnesses. It's like we're being proactive and taking care of our mental health, just like we do for our bodies. Key English phrases for discussing mental health. One of the biggest challenges in talking about mental health is simply not knowing what to say. It's like you want to be there for someone, but you're so scared of saying the wrong thing. Just remember that wanting to have the conversation at all shows you care. That's a big first step. The key is to create a safe space where the person doesn't feel judged. You can do this by choosing a private spot where you won't be interrupted, or even suggesting a walk or having tea together. This takes the pressure off and makes the conversation more natural. When someone does open up to you, one of the most valuable things you can do is active listening. This means really focusing on what the person is saying without interrupting or jumping in with solutions.
Okay.
It's tempting to want to fix it, but at this point, the person needs to feel heard and understood. Here are some simple supportive phrases you can use. It sounds like you're going through a lot, right? Now, I can't imagine how difficult that must be. What can I do to support you right now? It's also important to know what not to say. Avoid comments that dismiss the person's experience, such as "just snap out of it," or "everyone feels that way." Sometimes, these comments are like telling someone with a broken leg to just walk it off. They compare a serious struggle to a small problem and make the person feel that their feelings aren't important. Instead, focus on validation and empathy. Here are some better alternatives. Instead of "just snap out of it," you could say, "I hear how much you're hurting, and I want you to know I'm here for you." Instead of "everyone feels that way sometimes," you could say, "It's understandable that you're feeling this way, given what you're going through." What if someone isn't ready to open up? You can start by simply expressing your concern. Open-ended question, like, "How are you really doing?" Or, "I've noticed you seem a little down lately. Is there anything you want to talk about?" If they still don't want to talk, respect their boundaries. Just let them know you're there when they're ready by saying, "I get it if you don't want to talk now, but just know I'm here for you whenever you need me." Supporting mental wellness. Practical tips conversations are a huge part of the picture. But supporting mental wellness also means taking care of ourselves in a holistic way. Nurture social connections, spending time with people you love, doing things you enjoy, and being a part of your community can have a huge impact on how you feel. Spend time in nature, studies, show that being in nature can reduce stress and make us feel better. Even a short walk in a park can be calming. Prioritize sleep. Aim for 7 to 9 hours of good sleep every night. Our brains need that time to rest and recharge. Get regular exercise. It's a great way to lift our mood. Do stress and sleep better. Practice gratitude. Studies show that if we focus on what we're grateful for, it can really change our mood and outlook. Try taking a few minutes each day to think about things you're thankful for, no matter how small. Mindfulness. This is about being present in the moment without judging our thoughts and feelings. It helps us become more aware of what's going on inside so we can handle things better instead of letting our emotions take over. It's important to understand the impact of substances like alcohol, smoking, or drugs on mental health. While they might make you feel better temporarily, in the long run, they can actually hurt your mental health. For example, alcohol is a depressant that can mess with the balance of chemicals in your brain, leading to more anxiety and a worse mood over time. Instead of using substances to cope with stress, you can replace those unhealthy habits with healthy ones. All of the self-care practices we talked about are powerful ways to manage stress and improve your mood without using substances. Remember, asking for professional help is a sign of strength, not weakness. There are many resources out there to support you on your journey to recovery. *** learning and language for English learners. This is an excellent topic for building your vocabulary and conversation skills. By practicing these phrases and understanding these concepts, you'll be able to have more meaningful and supportive conversations in English. Key vocabulary: well-being, resilience, coping skills, mental illness, depression, anxiety, spectrum, self-soothe, neurotransmitters, active listening, validation, empathy, proactive, self-care, mindfulness, gratitude. Phrases to express feelings: I'm feeling a bit down lately. I've been feeling overwhelmed. I'm finding it hard to cope. I'm not feeling like myself. I've been feeling stressed out.
Cool.
I hope this has been an insightful conversation. Remember, taking care of our mental health is just as important as taking care of our physical health. We need to look after both. Thank you so much for joining me on this deep dive into conversations about mental health. If you found this episode helpful, please like, share, and subscribe to Super English Talks for more great discussions. Until next time.